Yo, what's going on, everyone? This is Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast. And for today, we are going to try and find the next Rui Hachimura. And when I say the next Rui Hachimura, I am not talking about trying to find the next 6'8 forward who is kind of mid on defense and kind of okay on offense, exactly like Rui Hachimura. I'm talking about the exact scenario and context that Rui Hachimura was in when the Lakers traded for him. Let me explain. But before I do, if I could please ask you guys to like this video, comment down below, and most importantly, please hit subscribe to this channel. That would really help me out a lot. All right, the next Rui Hachimura. Why would the Lakers want to try and find the next Rui Hachimura? Well, they kind of want to find the same sort of context that Rui Hachimura was in when they traded for him from the Washington Wizards. Because as you remember, during that time, Rui Hachimura was still on his rookie deal contract, and he was an expiring $4.5-ish million. And the reason why he was expiring was extension negotiations with the Wizards went sour that October, and they weren't able to come to an agreement, thereby making Rui Hachimura an expiring contract heading into the season. And so if the Washington Wizards wanted to make sure that they got something out of Rui and didn't just let him expire, they needed to trade him. And that's where the Lakers came in. They traded Kendrick Nunn and 3 seconds to acquire Rui Hachimura. They ended up re-signing Rui Hachimura. That's to the current deal that he's on. And he's worked out pretty well for the Lakers as a tertiary 3-and-D-ish small forward / power forward. He hasn't been perfect, but he has been a pleasant surprise that the Lakers just got for 3 seconds. So who could be the next Rui Hachimura in terms of a player who is currently extension eligible, who, if negotiations go sour with their respective teams this upcoming October, the Lakers could take advantage of? Well, I've got some options for you guys. And fortunately for you guys, all of these options, all of these players are forwards who can kind of play defense. Some of them can really play defense, but they're all 6'6" or taller. So you guys will like that. So with that said, without further ado, here are some rookie extension expiring contracts, potentially, if they don't extend with their team, trade candidates that the Lakers should monitor, who they could trade for by the deadline because their teams won't want to lose them for nothing. So let's get into my first option. Number one, let's talk about the Toronto Raptors' Ochai Agbaji. Agbaji is currently on an expiring $7 million contract. Next season, he'll become a restricted free agent with the Toronto Raptors, but currently he is extension eligible. And if him and his camp aren't able to reach an agreement with the Toronto Raptors, could he be trade fodder for them? Now, Agbaji is a shooting guard / small forward. He is still only 25 years old. He is 6'5" in height with a 6'10" wingspan. He also weighs 216 pounds. Last season with the Raptors, he averaged 10.4 points on 49% from the field and 39% from three, hitting a decent 1.6 three-pointers made per game. So I would love an Ochai Agbaji flyer because he is strong, sturdily built. He's pretty athletic and rangy. He has shown some really good flashes being able to guard up and press up against other wings like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the past. He's just got a really strong, sturdy frame that I like. He's physical, he's explosive, he's still young. These are the types of flyers that I think the Lakers should continue to take more flyers on. Essentially exactly the way that they did with Rui Hachimura. You've got a strong 6'8" forward who's athletic. The dots haven't fully clicked or connected for him, but in the right situation, could you turn him into a useful role player for you? And I think Ochai Agbaji could be just that for the Lakers. And I think he may even have a higher ceiling than just being a typical 3-and-D guy, because as we've already seen, he's improved three-point shooting wise in his career. He shot 39% last season, and his volume rose a bit as well. So yeah, I just like Ochai Agbaji in terms of his potential. And he's, again, young physical clay that the Lakers can work with. He doesn't do anything too crazy. He's not too erratic, which is what I like. And again, 49% from the field. So he's the type of player who knows how to just do his job as an off-ball cutter, as a rim runner, as a lob threat, as a finisher, first and foremost. 49% on 39% three-point shooting percentages. Those are stellar splits. And again, you just look at his physical profile and you kind of got to love what you see. 6'5", 6'6", with a 6'10" wingspan, and he's 216 pounds of muscle. So Ochai Agbaji, if he's not able to come into an extension agreement with the Raptors by the time training camp starts, highlight his name, circle it in red. This is the type of player who the Lakers should trade for and invest in the future. Maybe it takes Dalton Connect, but honestly, I think, trading for Ochai Agbaji may be a better investment at this point. Maybe it doesn't take Dalton Connect, in which case that will be great. But yeah, Ochai Agbaji would be my first quote-unquote next Rui candidate to look out for. All right, let's move on to my second candidate, and let's talk about Jeremy Sochan out of the San Antonio Spurs. Kind of like Ochai Agbaji, he is on a $7 million expiring contract. He'll be a restricted free agent with the Spurs next season. Currently, he is undergoing extension talks with the Spurs. But kind of like Rui Hachimura, he did not want to accept a $13 million contract from the Wizards. What if Jeremy Sochan doesn't want to accept whatever the Spurs are willing to give him? Then he would be an expiring $7 million that the Spurs may want to trade and get off of while they can. Now, Jeremy Sochan may be more of a pipe dream scenario, especially in relation to Ochai Agbaji, because Jeremy Sochan is a player that the Spurs actually handpicked and drafted, whereas Ochai Agbaji, the Raptors kind of just traded for him. He was like a throw-in in a deal with the Utah Jazz, I believe. But yeah, Jeremy Sochan is a homegrown draft pick, organic draft pick from the Spurs. So this one might be a little bit more of a pipe dream, but Jeremy Sochan, if he's not able to come into an extension agreement with the Spurs come this training camp, he's 22 years old. He plays the shooting guard, small forward, power forward position. Actually, maybe more small forward, power forward. This graphic isn't exactly correct, but Jeremy Sochan is 6'8" in height with a 7-foot wingspan. He weighs 230 pounds, which kind of seems surprising since he's a little bit frail. But yeah, really good size at 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. Last season, he averaged 11.4 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 2.4 assists. But the thing that you love about Jeremy Sochan is his defensive versatility, his positional versatility, and his overall defensive motor and acumen. Because this dude slaps on the defensive end. He kind of reminds me of, like, if you put Draymond Green into Kyle Kuzma's body, you would kind of get Jeremy Sochan. Now, not on the offensive end, of course. I think Jeremy Sochan still has some edges, rough edges to smooth out offensively. But in terms of the defensive grit, the way that he shuffles his feet and can pretty much defend positions 1 through 5, the way he moves fluidly on the court, his awareness, his quick twitch awareness on the defensive end, it's everything you could want in a switch defender. A guy who can sort of command and general your defensive scheme. And also on the offensive end, he showed some progress too as a playmaker. 2.4 assists for a forward, a defensive forward, is nothing to turn your nose at. So I kind of like where Jeremy Sochan is going in terms of his development. And again, next to Luka Doncic, you don't really need him to do much offensively anyways, but he rebounds the ball. He runs the floor well. He's athletic. He's young. This is the type of player that I would love for the Lakers to take a flyer on. Although if he were made available on the market, I'm sure a lot of teams would be calling about Jeremy Sochan, and I'm honestly not sure what it would take to get him, but I don't know. Jeremy Sochan is an interesting name to think about if he's not able to come into an extension agreement with the Spurs. And this is the exact type of defender that you would want next to Luka Doncic. Now, his shooting is problematic because he's not a high-volume, highly efficient three-point shooter, but you can kind of get away with that because he's not completely incompetent offensively like a Jared Vanderbilt type, because he knows how to finish at the rim. He's very explosive. He's very athletic. And again, he can sort of pass the ball as well, handle the ball in a pinch for you. He's that poor man's Draymond Green and Kyle Kuzma's body that I've been talking about on the defensive end and in terms of his versatility. So Jeremy Sochan, another name to look out for with regards to who the Lakers can trade for in the next Rui sort of vein. All right, let's move on to our third candidate, and let's talk about Bennedict Mathurin out of the Indiana Pacers. So Bennedict Mathurin is on a $9.8 million expiring contract this year. Just like the rest of our targets, he'll be a restricted free agent next year. And he's also in negotiations with the Indiana Pacers to potentially get an extension. But if they don't reach that agreement, well, he's going to become an expiring contract. And the Indiana Pacers have already spent a lot of money retaining their own guys. You know, a new contract for Pascal Siakam, a new contract for Tyrese Halliburton. Now, they lost Miles Turner, but they've still paid a ton of guys, and then Jarris Walker is going to come up soon after. So Bennedict Mathurin may become a casualty in all of their depth. So Bennedict Mathurin is 23 years old. He is 6'5/6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan. He weighs 205 pounds, and last season he averaged 16.1 points, 5.3 rebounds, and almost 2 assists per game. And what I like about Bennedict Mathurin is that he is that punch you in the jaw, dynamic, explosive sort of athlete. He just darts up and down the court, cocks that thing back, pause, behind his head, tomahawk jam. He just pops off the page for you offensively. And he could be that type of scoring forward next to Luka that really gives the Lakers another look, changes the pace up a bit, gives us that boost in the arm, that punch in the mouth that we need from an athleticism and explosiveness standpoint. And he can really score the rock. He's a good pull-up jump shooter, good pull-up three-point shooter. He's even shown some real flashes in playoff games. So he has that playoff experience where he hasn't necessarily been a playoff dropper. He still could use more reps. He still could use more experience, but 16 points, 5 rebounds in the regular season is no joke. Now, kind of like Jeremy Sochan, maybe Bennedict Mathurin is more of a pipe dream scenario because you'd have to imagine that the Indiana Pacers would try and just, even if they aren't able to come to an extension agreement with him, that maybe they'll probably just re-sign him to a new contract anyways because they have control over his restricted free agency the upcoming year. But having said that, if negotiations go sour, Bennedict Mathurin would 100% be a player that I would be interested in for the Lakers because of his scoring pop and, again, his dynamic athleticism and his ability to run up and down the court and just be a blur, be a lob threat, be a guy who you can give the ball to, shot clock winding down. He can create something out of nothing. And he's continuing to improve as a player as well. And next to Luka Doncic, to have that type of finisher, he's like the professional, well-rounded, more consistent version of Cam Whitmore. So I really like Bennedict Mathurin. I think defensively he has a lot of potential. I'm not sure how consistent and high level a fundamental defender he is, but he definitely has the tools and the agility to be a good defender. So I like the clay that we're working with regards to Bennedict Mathurin. So he's another name to look out for if extension talks don't go both partners' way with regards to Bennedict and the Pacers. The Lakers should absolutely jump on that. Whether they have to give up the 2031st first, I don't know. Whether they have to also give Dalton Connect, I don't know. Would that be too rich for Bennedict Mathurin? They would have to make that assessment themselves. But if the Lakers were able to get a guy like Bennedict Mathurin, that's a pretty good young piece to bring into their arsenal. 23 years old as well. All right, let's move on to my last candidate, and let's talk about Peyton Watson out of the Denver Nuggets. Now, this one's a little bit more realistic in the same vein as Ochai Agbaji. Peyton Watson is making $4.5 million this upcoming season. Again, if he doesn't come to an extension agreement with the Nuggets, he becomes expiring, a restricted free agent next season, and the Nuggets would have to worry about him potentially walking or them having to pay up to keep him. Peyton Watson plays the shooting guard / small forward position. He's still only 22 years old. He is 6'7" in height with a 7-foot wingspan and weighs 200 pounds. Last season, he averaged 8.1 points, 0.7 steals, and 1.4 blocks per game. So Peyton Watson, you're not going to want to look at his offensive stats because Peyton Watson is that elite point of attack chaos agent type of defender that you would want on your team. He's kind of like Jeremy Sochan. 0.7 steals, 1.4 blocks in limited minutes. And whenever he's out on the court, he is scrapping, moving his active hands, tapping balls loose. He is a complete disruptor on the defensive end, and he's got the athleticism and the explosiveness on top of it. I would almost call Peyton Watson like a very poor man's version of Amen Thompson and Asar Thompson, the Thompson twins. Like, he just has that type of frenetic, chaotic, explosive defensive pop. And that is something that the Lakers desperately need. Now, offensively, obviously, he's rough around the edges. He's not a prolific three-point shooter by any means. He's very limited offensively. But next to Luka, you can make use of his athleticism, his ability to run the floor, his ability to be a lob threat. And then defensively, you already know what he can give you. He can be that defense to offense sort of player who gets pick sixes and gets you running the other way and, yeah, just creating havoc all over the court. So I really like Peyton Watson as a name, a realistic name that the Lakers could actually target, because I'm not sure the Denver Nuggets want to pay Peyton Watson $15 million with how expensive their roster has already become. That's the reason why they traded Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. And pretty soon they'll also have to think about re-signing and extending Cam Johnson. So I think Peyton Watson is actually pretty low on their totem pole of guys that they have to, re-sign. Because the biggest thing too that they have to worry about is Christian Braun's new extension. So Peyton Watson may be a casualty of all of the Nuggets' dealings with other more important players, even though Peyton Watson, I think, is an important player in their scheme. And for the Lakers, because they're missing that point of attack wing defender, he would be an absolute godsend, at least defensively, for this team next to Luka. So Peyton Watson is my fourth and final, quote unquote, next Rui extension eligible, potentially expiring young player to look out for this upcoming season. So what do you guys think about those four options? Did I miss any young players who may also be going down this same extension eligible route? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know who's your favorite, how you would rank these guys. Yeah, discuss in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, and most importantly, please hit subscribe to this channel. This has been Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.